Hello, and welcome to another episode of What's Going On with Shaun, a variety podcast grounded in marketing, but with an appetite for quality conversations about things that make life worth living. Time is precious, so thanks for tuning in today as we find out what's going on with
Aaron Bickart. We're going to have a great conversation today. I'm glad you've tuned in, giving us some of your time. Aaron is how long have we known each other, Aaron? Is it
I'm going to say
20 years more?
Yeah, I'm going to say 2001 when you worked in Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was guessing that it was around that time, 2000-ish, 2001 might be. And so we were both working for
Reynolds and Reynolds.
Reynolds and Reynolds.
Sure, both working for Reynolds and Reynolds.
And you were based in Arizona at the time?
I was living in Phoenix, Arizona at the time. Yes, I was. Yes. And I
So,
remember when we met too. That was actually a pretty funny moment when we met, when you were in living up in Seattle.
that's right. You know, I'll let you finish a little bit of this story, but you and I had a few conversations when you were in the field, like going in, meeting dealers, shaking hands, and I was on the Microsoft CarPoint Reynolds team inside, and you were the first person of all of the Reynolds, and not to disparage all the other people in the field at Reynolds, but you were the first guy who I was like, this guy gets it. Like, shit, he's like, he's really sharp. Like, and that was kind of the beginning of, kind of the friendship for sure. Yeah. And do you remember, you told me something, you gave me this advice. You're like, anytime, even if you're on the phone, Shaun, if you don't sell the dealer something, if you don't sell them something, you still have to do this one thing. Always give them at least one of these. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, a golden nugget.
Nugget.
You always got to give the golden nugget. If you don't give a golden nugget every time you're talking to a dealer or
right.
to another associate, you always got to make sure you give the golden nugget.
That's right. I've never forgotten that. Golden nugget, for those that are like, well, what's that? It's a good idea. It's give them something, even if you received nothing in return. Give people something. Give a dealer. And at that time, the golden nuggets were so valuable because of the internet explosion. There were so many things to be able to share with a dealer that you could drop 2 or 3. And this was a brilliant move on your part because it helped you make stronger, deeper, better relationships.
Yes, that is absolutely true. And one of the big things, and when you and I used to work back at Reynolds and Reynolds, and you were at Microsoft, and I was training on SalesPoint, giving the golden nugget, these dealers had no idea. They didn't even have computers. I remember we had to go to the parts department and figure out exactly how to use the parts department's computers to put SalesPoint on there and answer.
I remember that.
2001. It was unbelievable. But really, our first relationship came out of Coolidge, Arizona.
What was that about? I know, but tell the audience what that.
Coolidge, Arizona. We had a great friend of ours who owned a Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, Cadillac dealership in Arizona, and his name was Jim Garrett Chevrolet.
That's right.
And you and I tag teamed Jim because he wanted to get into the internet world. Mm-hmm. And you all can imagine, the internet was open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And Jim had a small dealership about 35 miles south of Phoenix, which is really south of Queen Creek, Arizona.
That's right.
And about 80 miles north of Tucson. And you helped Jim and his wife and his organization in Coolidge, Arizona, and you and I worked tandem together on that.
We sure did.
Make him a believer in the internet.
We did. And a little sidebar to that story was my parents went down and bought a car from him because they were at that time living in Sun City.
That's correct.
And they went and bought a used, low mileage Ford Escape from him. And that Ford Escape, I'm not kidding, is still alive in my driveway, in the back of my house in Texas. Like everyone's garage is in the back of the house. It's literally sitting in my driveway right now. Like it's lived. I drove that like 3 or 4 years ago. I drove that Escape from Sun City back to Texas because my son had totaled the car that we bought for him. Good job. Everyone was fine. He was just being dumb. But my parents felt so bad that they wanted their grandson to have a vehicle because I was not about buying him another.
Yeah.
So they said, why don't you, when you're coming out here, why don't you just drive the Escape back home? And I'm like, that's a long drive and the radio doesn't work. So I drove that thing back to Texas with no radio.
You had air conditioning going down I-10.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't fun. Did have air conditioning. So let's stay a little bit in the old days because I'm not sure if I'm clear on this. Did you come directly into Reynolds, or were you with the Half a Car, Rick Rona, Paglia, all of those guys? Did you come in with that team, or were you at Reynolds? Because you were, okay. Yeah,
so let me walk you through that real quick. So in 1999, I started working for a consulting firm called Half a Car. And Half a Car was a red carpet lease training division for Ford Motor Company, as well as some other OEMs. But our biggest division was Ford. And then end of 99, they wanted to start a new division called Cybercar. And Cybercar, and Eustace Mita was the CEO at the time. And Shaun Wolfington and Ralph Paglia were running the division. And then also as well as David Boyce and others from Automark days. So we had a website company and an internet training division. And then we were acquired, believe it or not, really in 2000, but the full acquisition didn't really happen until April 4th, 2002. So I was acquired, and then I came to work for Reynolds & Reynolds.
That's what I thought. So at that time, and I don't know, I think we're pretty close in age. Like I'm 48 now. So
yeah, I'm 49. I just turned 49 on Saturday.
So I don't know if you had this feeling or if you felt like you were kind of like at their level, but I remembered really feeling like Paglia and Don Crawford and some of those guys. Anytime I got a little exposure, I was like, okay, these guys are like, they felt like mentors. Like I'm just trying to pick up on, like, they felt like they were like they had it. Yep. And, more experience. And I felt like a student of the game back then. And I don't know if you felt that way. Did you get a lot of that from them, or did you kind of feel like you were also one of the ones kind of setting the pace?
Well, no, I use another little zinger that I was always an Indian, and they were always the Chiefs. So I always listened to what they had to say. I mean, when Ralph Paglia, at his time, in 2000, 2001, 2002, he was ahead of the curve. Shaun Wolfington was ahead of the curve in 2001, 2002, and we always knew exactly what was happening within the auto industry and how to answer leads and do everything. But we also had one thing that we also always had in our mind, if you don't remember, was technology. So we always did technology assisted selling. We used to call it TAS.
That's right.
If you try to do everything alone today and do it all, I call it hand jamming. It's not going to be not going to work for you. You got to have some technology and automation. So we always had that too as well. So they were always ahead of the curve. Yeah, we're a student of the game. For sure.
When the acquisition of Automark happened, and Cybercar, Half a Car, and all that happened, that was just before. I don't know, maybe 6 months. It might have even been a year before I got hired by that Microsoft Reynolds office in downtown Seattle. And it took me a little while to kind of, understand that role. I think that was really the first corporate job I'd had. Had already been in automotive, certified as a service writer, parts sales, a lot of different stuff. The internet explosion I was so captivated by it that it took me a little while to get it. And then it didn't take very long, and all of a sudden people would be like, how do you talk to dealers like that? I'm like, well, there's certain people that I'm like learning from. And you're definitely one of those guys. And I would, just kind of, wanted, like when you say student of the game, I felt like that for a long time. I joke around with that now where I say like, I used to feel like Luke Skywalker, and now I feel a little bit more like Yoda, because you're in it for so long. But that era for me was so exciting. You remember when we were peddling, you were peddling all kinds of stuff for Reynolds, but as it related to Microsoft CarPoint leads, do you remember the pricing structure for those? Like the tiered, if you're getting 1 through 10 leads, I still have some of that documentation because I went through the Cybercar training. I think it was in Philadelphia or something. I had to go do that.
Yeah, either Philadelphia or Chatsworth. So I was actually an instructor for that at the end. But Bill Kress, I remember all the instructors. Greg Ree, I don't know if you remember those names.
Yeah,
they were all great instructors to get us to where we are today in that information. But I don't remember the pricing at all of how we used to sell the leads.
It was insane.
Yeah.
It was all tiered pricing. I have it somewhere because I'm not really a hoarder, but there are certain things from the past that I'm like, I can never get rid of this. And one of them is like a pricing breakdown tree of CarPoint leads. And it was, if you put that in front of a dealer today, they would literally kick you out of the dealership immediately. They're like, no way. And I remember having the most contentious conversations because we were supporting the dealers who would sign up. We went into the field, and I was given like Pittsburgh, New Jersey, all the places where nobody wanted to go. And we would do those in-house trainings. We'd like rent the hotel and who were those two guys that did those trainings? I forget who they were. Alan.
I don't know Alan. Craig Polito was one.
And
the other one was Denny Shriver.
Yes, he did some of them.
And then, man, you're bringing back. I have cobwebs in my head, but you're trying to bring back all the. I lost a lot of hair since 2000, 2001. So
mine's getting there.
Yeah. Well, I'm bald now almost. But the I don't remember all the names, but you're bringing back a lot of good memories. But the Craig Polito, Denny Shriver, Greg Ree, Bill Kress. You just got Rob Paglia. They all used to do all these trainings, and we used to all sit there in awe, like with our mouth to the floor, about what they used to have to say. And but they all thought, they were forward thinkers. And I'm thinking of a thing now that we used to train on. It was called TIPS, TIPS, Traffic Interactive Process Selling. So it was called TIPS, and that's exactly what we used to do around the circle.
I still have that.
Bringing back the memory. So it's called TIPS, traffic. So we had to get the traffic.
Yep.
We had to be interactive. We had to have a process in place, and then at the end of the day, it was sales. And then at the end of the day, and then from there, we used to go from keyboard to keyboard, ear to ear, belly to belly. So we had to make the appointments. So that was exactly how the training went for the hour and a half, 2 hours of training that we used to do for back then.
Still have the tips wheel PowerPoint that shows you, baseline metrics, and then, well, what if you have us, and then all of a sudden from the beginning, traffic goes from this to now you've got 10,000 visitors a month, and how does that change everything around the wheel? And then you get in the center points like bullseye. This is how it's going to affect. Like, to me, it's like when we meet people, and you obviously the role you have with Team Velocity, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But the people that you've met over the years, do you ever have that thought where you don't want to be rude to somebody, but when somebody's like, "Listen, I've been doing this for 5 years," and you're like, "That's cute," because when I think about like the pioneering days,
but the foundations that we both have are bar none. What was a great foundation for us, and it's irreplaceable.
It really is.
And I see all these new people coming into the industry, who don't know who you and I are. And I like to listen to them because you never know, like that golden nugget, they might say something and then you're like, you know what? Aha. that is amazing. I'm going to steal that from that person and add it on to the foundation that we already know. So one of the things I've learned over the years is to be humble and just sit there and listen to them, because you never know who they're going to be in the next 5 to 10 years and who they're maybe not going to be. Now I just sit back and pay attention to everybody.
I have found, and maybe this is something that every person as they age comes across this feeling, but I am more aware of how much I want to continue to learn every day from other people, reserve the right to change my mind. If people are capable of having a conversation that brings golden nuggets or illuminates something that you'd never really thought about before, I feel like I crave that more now in my life than ever before. And I'm highly irritated when things or people waste my time.
Yep.
It's interesting to say that.
Yeah, you're
like, I want to ask you, when you think about like the old days, you and I coming into it, late 90s, early 2000s, and then our intersection in 2001 era, let's think about that time. What do you think has not changed? What's still the same? Like, it's been that way and we've just never really ever changed it.
The people. We can't find great people in our industry, and the process is still the same at the end of the day. I think we refined the process, with deliveries today, bringing the car to you and giving prices over the phone versus saying, hey, you need to make an appointment. When can you come in? But I think at the end of the day, I think people and process has not changed at all. And of course, the websites have gotten better, a lot faster. The internet has gotten a lot more. Google has become a lot more relevant to our lives, as well as Microsoft Ads and social media, of course, video, of course. But I think people and process. It all comes back down to people and process at the end of the day. If you don't have the right people in the right process, you can have 100 leads, and it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's so true. The non-compete that I served a couple years ago, or a year or so, whatever it was, I couldn't touch websites and digital marketing for a year, and I didn't. I really wanted to, not that our industry is known for people with virtue and integrity, but I really didn't try to mess with that. And it allowed me to just freely absorb other things going on. And it really came back to what you're talking about, is there is still a personnel, people, and definitely a process or process problems relative to the internet that made me. And so the last couple of years, I say this a lot. I'm like, people think that the internet made selling cars easier. It didn't. It's actually quite a bit more complex.
Yeah, because you can do it from sitting right from your home. I mean, you can email or look at 4 different dealerships in less than 20 minutes.
Right. But 30 years ago, a guy selling cars, a gal selling cars didn't have to know how a CRM tool worked. They didn't have to know that somebody might deserve some credit because they were responded to a Facebook ad, right? You and I got into this. Google was not on the scene. There was no Facebook. There's been so many fundamental changes that when I look back on the past, I'm thinking, what has significantly changed and what hasn't changed? And it definitely, I totally agree with you. People and process are still huge. What do you think when you talk about process? What do you think one of the, or maybe a couple of the biggest areas within process that dealers are still, they need help. They're just still not getting it right. What do you think, if you were to say, hey, dealer, you should do this 1 or 2 things because it's really going to help you?
Well, that's a very broad question that you asked me there. But the question is pretty simple. If you look at every other industry sitting out there today, from airline industry to the banking industry to even Amazon out there, buying online, every one of these industries know who you are, and they give the personalized experiences. The industry has changed completely, and dealers today just are not giving personalized experiences to their current consumers that are doing business with them, and they need to take that into consideration and making sure everything is personalized for what their current active or customers who have done business or who are in their DMS, and give them a different experience than typical conquest customers. They treat them completely like they've never done business with them before. That's where I see the industry and what they need to do today.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about something that, and we'll come back around to car business stuff too. It's been several years ago, but I remember I hadn't seen you it had been at least a year, maybe longer. And I run into you, and it was probably at NADA, but I see you and I'm like, what? You had lost a lot of weight. You just looked like you were in better condition, like a better state of health. Your state of mind seemed better, sharper, a different focus. Would you just share with everybody who may be listening and or watching, like, and if it's too personal, because I've never asked you this, what was the catalyst that made you decide to make a change like that? Because I remember thinking, oh my goodness, you make me even feel more fat and more like I need to get my shit together. But there's usually something that happens in somebody's life that, pushes you towards that. Is that something that you would like to talk about?
Yeah. So I have no shame about it whatsoever. So I had a little turbulence in my life. So I went through a little divorce. And at the end of the divorce, I got into the wrong crowd and I gained all that weight and did things that we're not supposed to do in life at the end of the day. And what I said, I need to start getting back in shape. I turned myself around and I started doing triathlons and started running, biking, swimming, eating healthy. And then I met a nice, lovely lady who's my current wife, Heidi. And she introduced me to a naturopathic doctor to make sure that I knew what I was allergic to and not allergic to. And I found out that I was allergic to dairy, eggs, and kidney beans, of all things. And I changed my life. And now I'm trying to stay as healthy as I possibly can. And I don't drink a lot. And basically, I concentrate on work and family life now.
That's pretty fascinating. So are you familiar with Dr. Joseph Mercola out of Chicago?
I am not. No.
You mentioned naturopathic doctor, and I think that's what he would be labeled as. My wife's a big fan of his, so she sends me a lot of content, trying to encourage me, which is always good, but it's interesting so do you, as far as maintaining your health, do you look at more of less of the Western medicine, here's a pill for everything, and more of like, I want to figure out all these natural ways through nutrition and diet and meditation and all these things, like, or do you, do a little bit of both?
Yeah, I'm a hodgepodge. So I'm in between. Now, my wife is definitely far right, naturopathic. But yeah, so I'll give you a little plug. My doctor is Dr. Alan Christensen in Scottsdale, Arizona. He's a big thyroid doctor, naturopathic. He has a great practice to get into. He's probably one of the best in the United States that I think. But I do a little bit of both. From vitamin B12 shots and doing all the different things, and then but if I get sick, like the other day I was under the weather. My wife would just let it draw out and do neti pots and do all those types of things. Well, I do NyQuil or DayQuil. So the master systems, because I got to get to work. I can't be sitting there, trying to figure it out.
So has your wife ever had you do any oil pulling? Have you done that?
Oh yeah, oil pulling. Rubbing incense on me and doing all sorts of things. Yeah. So naturopathic is definitely a way of life, and definitely eating healthy, we are a carnivore family, but we do a lot. We eat a lot of plants. We eat lots of fruits, but we do definitely eat meat still as well. But thyme and different things we put in our stuff, and we stay very healthy. As much.
How about oregano oil?
I do not do oregano oil, but I can tell you my wife does oregano oil. I do, but my wife does, but I do not.
So I have had a couple of times in the last, because my wife, sounds like our wives would get along really well. They love this type of stuff. And I'm usually pretty agreeable. I'm like, I'll try it. Like I've started doing acupuncture. I started having, we won't go into this in depth, but I started having a couple of things going on with joint pain all over my body. Oh, wow. Back in November of 2019. And it's really the first time I had something going on like, ruh-roh, that's not right. And so I had already been in 2019 doing some different things to try to get a little healthier. And I think my body reacted to it in a way. It's like, okay, you're going to have some inflammation issues. So my wife was like, I want you to do this and take this and do this. And she's just like, these are all supplements, take them. Plus you're going to do acupuncture. Yeah, you do that? Have you done that?
I do not, but my wife has, not for pain, but for allergies. There's an ancient, I guess, we'll just call it, for this podcast, we'll call it the ancient Chinese medicine. But
right.
But there's a doctor in Phoenix, Arizona. I think he's actually in Scottsdale, named Dr. Kwan. And for allergies, where they actually hold out your hand and put an egg in there, and they put your thing down, and you have to put acupuncture in. Because my wife had a bunch of allergies, and she went and got acupuncture done. I have not done acupuncture, but she definitely has. But it is good though. I hear it's very. I forget the name of it. If my wife was here right now, she would definitely punch me in the face because she has told me a million times. But but there is definitely a ancient Chinese remedy for acupuncture for that.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, I wasn't excited to go do it, but yeah, I've actually been going about once a week for a few months, and I'm kind of working through. It started with part of treating pain management because I didn't broadcast. Now people will know, like, are you okay? I'm okay now. I'm not having any of those issues. But part of trying to get control of that and figure out what was going on was a lot of tests and a lot of blood work and then acupuncture. And so I got in front of and then curbed all the pain issues. But it was more of, well, what caused all of that? What was going on? And there were a lot of things. There still are a lot of things going on in my life that are far more stressful than I give them credit for, because I've always been I don't get stressed out. I'm not a worrier. That's typically not my default. But what we found out was that no, everyone experiences stress, and you happen to be one of those guys that pushes it as far down as you possibly can, and now it's coming out and manifesting itself in a way that's harmful to you. So good. The acupuncture for me now is really stress management.
Good for you.
Yeah, it is. It's been really great. It's been really, really, really good. Yep. It's interesting that you had mentioned the naturopathic doctor, because that's definitely a blend of our. My wife is like you, and then I'm kind of a bit of a hybrid. Like if I do get a cold, I'm like, I'll take a half a bottle of NyQuil, wake up and feel better. Exactly. But yeah. But oregano oil I have used on a couple of occasions when I first get the early hint of a cold, and it is so intense, but I have been very successful using oregano oil to literally knock out a cold. Pretty amazing.
It is. Yeah. Well, amazing. I was just down for the count on Saturday and Sunday this past week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and got myself at a local naturopathic doctor where I live now, a little cocktail, a little Ivy. And now I'm pretty good. So.
So are you doing any more of the triathlon stuff, or are you no competition?
You know what? At the end of the day, I want to get back into it. I'm married now. I'm married now 10 years to Heidi, and I got 3
Congratulations.
Kids. Yeah, thanks. And I got 3 kids that drive me up the wall and crazy, but they're the most amazing 3 kids ever. And then Team Velocity keeps me busy like you've never seen before. I mean, as you know, doing what I do here is I work I call it ding to dong. I wake up in the morning and I go to bed at night and I'm still working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've always I've always known that about you, is that your work ethic and you're really tenacious. But I'll tell you what, you always are one of those people that made a huge impression on me, and I definitely benefited from your demeanor. From the old days to right now has always been one that is reassuring, confident. You're not, to be honest with you, sometimes it's like, I'm not sure. He has a spirit of humility, I think, to him, but maybe it's also a quiet, like, no, I'm a badass, which is, I love a recipe that has all those different components to it. So how old are your kids?
I got a 9-year-old turning 10 in March. Then I got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old who will be 5 in April.
Wow, yeah. Those are all really, really good. Those are great years. My son is 21.
21 already?
Moved out. My daughter's
I think I remember when he was born, or like when he was 2 years old.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was, but at that point, we were in Seattle for a couple of years. My daughter was also born in Bellevue, Washington, and they were both actually born in the same hospital. But she was, I think Will was 4 and Sammy was 2 maybe when we got pulled across the country to the Automark office there at Military Circle in Norfolk, Virginia.
Norfolk, Virginia. We used to
and talk about huge promises and all broken. They literally had changed the pay plan on that, whatever they called that role, account executive. And they promised, like, dude, you're going to make all this kind of money and you're fantastic. And they had interviewed 2 or 3 people. And I was like, I was the one that said, okay. And all these years later, I come to appreciate those experiences because even though there were a lot of broken promises, I wouldn't have met a whole bunch of people out there that were important in my growth and my career. You remember some of those guys out there? There was after the Boyces and Wolfingtons had left that, they had George Close. Yeah, it was the leadership team was so military, right?
Well, you had David Boyce's father.
That's right.
And then we had Mike DeGan. Who was an ex-Navy SEAL instructor. Matter of fact, I still work with Mike DeGan. Mike DeGan's our chief infrastructure officer for our organization. I don't really know what he does here, but I know whatever he touches, it seems like the Navy SEALs are touching it because it's all. Then we also had Sharon O'Connell back then. She actually still works for us today at Team Velocity. And then we have who was that really tall? George Close worked there, but George Close didn't come on board until Reynolds and Reynolds acquisition.
Yeah, he didn't. He was later, and he wasn't there too long.
I'm trying to think of the real tall guy. I think he ran the silver team or the blue team or something.
Carl. There was a guy, Carl. There was a Bill Vaughn. He was a military guy. I think Army. Paul Minner. He was. I think Paul Minner was a Navy SEAL, right?
Yeah, Paul Minner was a Navy SEAL. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. A lot of people down in Norfolk's all military. So
I'll tell you, it wasn't military in the little office in Seattle that I decided, I'll move out to Virginia. And I get to Virginia and I'm like, why did you guys want me?
Yeah. You went from a liberal area to a very conservative area.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Most people apparently think that I'm like a massive liberal. Do you think I'm a massive liberal?
I have no idea.
Is that
no?
Is that the? But is that the sign that I give to the world that I'm really liberal?
No. Well, you got the hat on, and you got this going on. Liberal, you're conservative. You might have a suit on, like I got. Like I'm tied up.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't know. You look pretty. I don't know. You look like an independent right there. You just don't want to.
I am an independent. Yeah,
I don't know which way I want to go.
I go both ways.
What do you think about these Democratic debates?
I don't like to get into politics too much, but I'll tell you this: I haven't watched one debate until the last one when they were in Las Vegas, and I watched only the first hour of it. And these Democrats are vicious. Man, they go after the last one. I don't know about the ones before, but that last debate for about an hour, they were, Elizabeth Warren and Biden and Sanders and what's the guy's name?
The guy that's Bloomberg is in now.
Well, Bloomberg, he didn't know what to say. No. And, they're all trying to get him to waive the NDA for his actions. Against
yeah.
But that's basically when I turned it off. But I just saw that they were very vicious, and I was like, wow, they really go at it. But best of luck to whoever wins the Democratic National Committee for that.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting to watch. I see you're not a big social media guy. Like, you're not posting stuff all the time and active. I kind of feel compelled that I kind of have to, like it's just something that I have to pay attention to. It drives me crazy, to be quite honest, because, whether it's friends or family, at some point in time or another, people are going to start posting things that they're really not experts in. Their knowledge is really actually pretty shallow, and they'll say things, and then I'm like, oh no. Yeah. It's kind of why I don't go there very often. But I just wondered if, like, those debates, to me, I was like, there was one last night as well, and it was more of what you were describing. I didn't watch really anything but sound bites or clips from the Las Vegas one. I think last night might have been worse, though, than what happened in Las Vegas, in that it's just tearing each other apart. Like, I'm not really sure how you can get a lot of substance from what is happening. It's just seems
vicious.
It seems really, really. It makes it actually really difficult to figure out, well, which one of them is really the strongest candidate for that party. I don't know.
I don't know, but I actually, I wish the best of luck for all the Democrats running against Donald Trump in this year. But I am going to call a prediction if you want me to do a prediction.
Oh, a political prediction? Like president?
I'll do a little, not who's going to win the election.
Yeah.
Not who's going to run against each other. And I know Bernie Sanders has won all the caucuses and the primaries so far. But I actually think it's going to be Bloomberg versus Trump at the end. I think the money speaks for itself now. People like how Trump has a lot of money and they can go after it, and Bloomberg has a lot of money. And I just think that it's going to be one of those two at the end. And I've been making that prediction for a little while moving forward. But we'll see. That's my prediction.
Well, you may be right. I'm sitting here thinking I don't know what they're going to do with it seems like a big mess right now. It feels like, you hear the expression of trying to unscramble an egg.
Yeah.
I feel like we've got scrambled eggs, and I don't know how they're going to do that. So
I don't know either. I don't know.
I will tell you, as it relates to politics, I'm always interested in talking about them if people like to come away from whatever their far point is into the middle to say, well, why don't you like this issue, or what makes you upset about this, or what I find a lot of times is that there's not any depth to most people when they say, well, I don't like XYZ. Yeah. Like, most of the people that criticize Trump for the things that I don't think anybody thinks is necessarily the greatest thing ever, whether it's over tweeting or what he says in tweeting, or the, grab him by the you-know-what. But I've told a lot of people, like, it doesn't matter whether it was Trump or Obama or Clinton. It doesn't matter who the president was. I never at least in my adult life, I've never looked at the president for my moral high ground. Like, but now it seems like that really, to a lot of people, matters. Like, well, that makes me feel terrible. Like, did you apply the same process of how you feel about things to all the others? Because I don't know that any of them really score higher points when it comes to that type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's going to be a interesting next few months. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be whoever the winner is. I never get into what side I'm on, left or right. I stay in the middle. But what you're saying is people they don't have a substance behind them at the end of the day. I kind of look at it going to Disney World, and you see that guy yelling, "We have the greatest park on earth. This is so magical here." But then when you look behind the person saying it, it's just a cardboard. But so we got to make sure that the person good substance behind what they're trying to say on it.
Yeah, we need good leaders that are really tuned into what what the country really needs. Across all boards.
It's definitely a difficult job.
Oh man, I wouldn't want it. I mean, I wouldn't. How would you? Where would you start, especially when it's not perfect? I mean, it's a challenge for sure.
And everybody's after you.
Oh yeah. As soon as you get enough attention and enough popularity, attack. Exactly. Right? It's attack.
You have your entourage, and then you have the people that don't want you there. So then so where do you stand?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it's a hard role. A lot of stress. I don't know. They must take sleeping pills at night to go to bed because their mind must just spin all night long.
Yeah, I think so. Well, let's hard shift out of politics and let's talk a little bit about Team Velocity. So you've been there how long now? About 11 years or something, or 10?
No. 8.5. 8.5
8.5.
years. 8.5 years. So September 1st, 2011.
You were highly recruited while you were at Reynolds by many, 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 many companies. You don't have to list them. But what made you, if you don't mind sharing, what made you decide to make the career switch? Because you were like top of the heap, making tons of money, very, very successful at Reynolds. And obviously I know a couple of, things within, the industry and those companies, but for the audience's sake, what was it? Because seriously, for everybody listening, Aaron is still one of the types of people that if you can have him as an asset in your company, he will make a difference. There's a lot of people that say they can, and they had one good season on the back of their baseball card. But Aaron literally is the guy who's like season after season after season. So why did you decide, okay, I'm going to make a switch? And then why Team Velocity?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. Well, first of all, I loved Reynolds and Reynolds. There was nothing wrong with Reynolds and Reynolds whatsoever. Reynolds and Reynolds had a great education for me. I was there since the acquisition of 2002. They put me through the management school. They sent me through. I became a director there, and the education was priceless. I mean, everything I learned at Reynolds and Reynolds was an amazing accomplishment as well as an education for me. So I want to applaud Reynolds and Reynolds for everything they've done for me. But the one thing that the lack of missing was of upward mobility for my career, and I needed a place that would listen to what I had to say versus just listening to me and just brushing it off. And one of the things that I came back to, I'm going to call it the founding fathers of what we were talking about with Cybercar and Africar. Team Velocity is owned by three guys, Bud Blackburn, Shaun Wolfington, and David Boyce. Now it's part of a holding company, but the majority owners are the three of them. And they were after me for a little while. They've been after me, since 2008. Then the recession came in 2009. Then 2010, they weren't ready. And then 2011, they decided to put a sales force together. And we were talking, and it was just timing was perfect for them. And they offered me an opportunity I would say I could not resist. And I just put it to you that way, an opportunity that I could not resist. I don't know if it was all about I don't know if it was all about money.
No, I'm sure it wasn't all about money.
Right. So I would say it had to do a little bit with cash. Ben Franklin's talk, right? Ben Franklin. Sure. Even though we just got to Las Vegas, and they have no respect for the Ben Franklin in Las Vegas. But at the end of the day, they offered me an opportunity to come work for Team Velocity, and I loved their vision. We met in Miami. In Key Biscayne, and we talked about it, but I didn't actually make the move until July of 2011.
Okay.
Yep.
And can you still hear me, by the way?
Yep, hear you perfect. Yep.
Okay, good. So you made that move, and now Team Velocity has gone from when I would first hear, and this is around the time that you went over there too, when people would ask me, hey, what do you think about Team Velocity? I'm like, well, I know several people over there that are pioneers. They've been in it from the very beginning of before it was called digital, internet this, internet that. So I would call them and find out. I never really wanted to give any kind of opinion because I was like, I don't know anything other than really the people. Yeah. And then over the years, especially more recently, as you guys have unveiled Apollo, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier in our conversation about providing a, more of a personalized experience for consumers, that's what they're really looking for. And I know that's what you guys started to chase after. And so I want to share with you this is now several years ago. I don't even know if you're still in this office, but Ralph was actually doing some work. I don't know if he was on board or consulting or what he was doing. This was probably in the tier 10 phase.
Yep.
But
our organizations. Yep.
Okay. So I met with him in an office in Virginia, and so you had customer support. Everything was there, including this big back warehouse area where you guys had bought all of your own printing machines. And at that point, this is several years ago, but even at that point, you guys were pulling consumer data, publicly available consumer data, that would then allow you to match campaigns that would essentially go as a direct mail piece that was specific to the car somebody was in, a new one, like all these things. And that was the first time I had ever met with anybody that was doing that. So it was like, I wish I could remember the year. I'm not even going to guess. But I didn't know of anybody else doing it. And it really seems like at that point was the, beginning of the evolution of a lot of what you guys are doing now with Apollo in terms of bringing in more points of data on consumers to better target them through advertising, but reach them at the right point at the right time with the right message.
That's correct.
Okay, so fill in the blanks a little bit from the time you got there of some of these components that you guys are doing that maybe everyone doesn't totally understand, because it's easy to get lost in the sauce when you walk by a Team Velocity booth at NADA. But when it really comes down to it, you're probably one of the best people that could very concisely tell a dealer, this is the problem, this is how we solve it.
Yep. Yeah. So let me walk you through that. So we still have that office. So just so you know, that was a 30,000 square foot office and we have 4 iGen Xerox printers sitting back there printing mail all day long. And we're very into the direct mail business and we fulfill everything ourselves. But reality is the problem in the auto industry, and it all started, and I'm going to just quote what David Boyce, one of our founders and CEO of Team Velocity, says all the time. It all started back, believe it or not, in the Reynolds and Reynolds days when he sold Automart to Reynolds and Reynolds. Because if you think about it, Reynolds and Reynolds and Buzz Waterhouse was the old CEO. This is before Finbar O'Neill became the CEO of Reynolds and Reynolds. I know I'm dating myself, but they're both very good friends of mine, Buzz as well as Finbar. And they all wanted one system that covers everything across the board. So it was basically one unique login that can do all their marketing from all the in-market mediums, from the website all the way to, let's just say, direct mail or video. So let's just here, the problem comes to play is we started building the dream, believe it or not, in 2011, exactly what you were saying there. And I just got to give a little plug. In 2011, when I came to work for Team Velocity, we had about 19 employees. Just so you guys should know this. Today, 8.5 years later, we have 362 employees.
Wow.
So we've grown a lot, but where it all comes down to play is it all starts with the data of a customer, and where do you acquire that data? And the dealership's data in their DMS is the number one problem. And most dealerships do not know how to mine that data. And that's the problem. We're so used to talking about third-party leads and third-party data, But reality, and you can steal this line, Shaun, for the rest of your life. You need to have first party data, and the first party data is their DMS. And so we had to figure out how to take the first party data leads from the DMS and be able to make it a consistent, credible, compliant message. Those are the 3 C's: consistent, credible, and compliant message across all the in-market mediums in real time, advertising VIN-based, let me repeat that, VIN-based vehicles for the consumer with a personalized lease or finance payment. So when they come in to buy a car, ultimately at the end of the day, be able to offer variable service coupons if they haven't been in for service in the last 18 to 60 months to get them back in the door. So how do you do all that? That was the $1 million question that we had to do over the last 8.5 years. And that's what we have been building at Team Velocity. And that was the vision 8.5 years ago.
It's impressive, right? That you guys are pulling all those data points together. Do you have other vendors in the space that you find also are doing similar things, or do you guys feel like you've kind of reached a point where you can put some distance between what others are trying to do?
Yeah, we have other vendors in the space that we love. And I'll just tell you, Force Marketing does a great job. We do. I think John Fitzpatrick does an amazing job with his team. And
he's a great dude. Yep.
Yeah, he's great. I think I don't know the people over at Stream Advertising. I know that they're doing a pretty good job out there. I was supposed to meet with them at NADA, but one thing led to another, and we just never got together. And then I think Cox does a great job too. They've done a lot of acquisitions over the years, but they just haven't been able to bring it together like the way we have. So I would say between the 3 of them and us, and there might be another couple companies out there that are up and coming right now that I hear about. It just takes a massive amount of patience, takes a massive amount of money, and at the end of the day, it takes and I'm going to say the massive word one more time, a massive amount of research and development. We have full-time developers working offshore in Moldova, in Estonia, and in India, and we're working around the clock, and that is our biggest expense to the company now. And just to get this to do what we're doing here at Team Velocity.
So I'm not surprised to hear you, mention other vendors in the space, even those that you cross over a little bit competitively with, because I think one of the things, and I'm just realizing this now, I've always kind of wondered why I've never shied away from competition. And I think it's because of people like you, maybe even our early interactions. I remember because we would talk about all kinds of different potential competitors in the space, especially in the third-party lead game back then. And I have always been that way. I was that way during the time that I was director for Reach Local's business. I was that way at the Reynolds business when I was more on the sales side. And I was definitely that way at DealerOn with all of the other website providers. I really would seek to make friends with all of them. That's how I became friends with Joe Chura and Joe Gillespie and Giancarlo over at Fox Dealer. Like all these guys, they're good guys. I want to learn from them. I want to know what they're doing. And then if I lose a deal to somebody like that, I'd rather know who I'm losing the deal to, because again, kind of back to your point, it's also a golden nugget to say, I lost the business this time, but I think those guys are going to do a good job for you. And if anything ever changes, certainly let me know. That positioned me to be more successful as a sales and business development person than trying to take the expected route of, oh, they're terrible or whatever. So I'm not even surprised at all that you would have mentioned some of these people that you compete with and what you feel about it.
And that's just some of the vendors that we compete with. I mean, we compete with all of them, really. And all the vendors are great. Vendors, other vendors or other competitors, they're all good friends of mine. As you know, you and I, when you worked at Dealer On, and we used to always talk about things all the time. And I have friends still at Reynolds and Reynolds at Naked Lime, and they're always like, Aaron, what are you up to now? I'm like, I got the tumbler. I got the butter sauce. I'm just making the butter, making it smooth. He goes, but you're coming out with something good. I know that, right? And I was like, I have no idea what's coming out, but it's coming. So, yeah.
Well, we certainly know a lot of people across a lot of vendors. I won't actually say, now that I kind of have a bit of an independent voice, I won't say that they're all good. Like we both have friends that are working at companies that I don't think are good, but we won't get into that part. So I'm not going to name names. I wish them all well. Tell me what your thoughts are on digital retailing. Like it, love it, needs tweaks.
I like digital retailing. I think digital retailing right now is more of a lead provider. I think people coming out the exit of it, is very small, 1%, 2%, 3% of it. I think the problem that the digital retailing organizations are having, and this is very I'm going to be probably as frank as I can probably be here, Shaun, is everybody wants to get into digital retailing because the hot new thing is the sizzle, right? It's the sizzle in the steak, right? Everyone wants to be there. But the reality is these car dealers need to look at the real marketing that they're currently doing today. They're making it very improbable. What I mean by that is their digital ads do not match their emails, and their emails don't match their mail, and their mail ads don't match what they have on their current website. And then when they go to their current website, a consumer doesn't believe you or trust you. At the end of the day, and then they go to the digital retailing part on your website, and then those monthly payments don't match up what it says on the website. So, like, I'll be looking at a VDP on some website, and it'll say buy this XYZ car for $395 a month, and then I go into the digital retailing platform, and it says no, it's $408 a month. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, what is it? Was it $395 or is it $408 a month? So what I'm trying to say to you is we need to step back a couple feet, get all that correct. I mean, if you think about Amazon, right, or you think about Wayfair or Overstock.com or United Airlines or American Airlines. You live in Dallas now. You love American down there, right? Mm-hmm. Right? If you go to their website and they offer a ticket for $398, you don't come out at the end for $515,
Right.
It's the exact payment. And they also know who you are. When you log into American Airlines, you have your own website. If you went to Wells Fargo or Bank of America or Wachovia, you have your own personalized PIN to get in. If you went into, Amazon, when's the last time you logged into Amazon? To say that you want to buy something.
Yeah. Right, yesterday.
But you never log back in and say, sign in, this is Shaun Rains, and here's my email address, and here's my password. It knows who you are. That is where we need to get to. And then digital retailing will come, because right now they don't trust you to get to the digital retailing side. But for a lead side of things, I think for dealers, because they want more leads and they want to be able to convert more, I think it's great. I think it's a great way to get people through the funnel. And you can see them as they come through, and I think it's a great way to get back in touch with them on that. But the other piece that always blows my mind is that our compressed margins on sales. Why dealers are not spending more money on service marketing? They need to. Time is the essence for these consumers, and why aren't they spending more money on service, picking up and delivering vehicles? And dropping it off. I mean, if you think about it, you can get delivery. I got a great story. Let me tell you the story. So I forgot to order my wife a present for not Mother's Day, for Valentine's Day, and I was out in NADA. It was Friday, and we're sitting in training at Team Velocity training that we always do beforehand. And I was, oh my goodness, I forgot to get my wife tulips. So I went right onto the Amazon app. Right, I went out there and I said tulips. It says they direct me to Whole Foods. It says Whole Foods can deliver the tulips within 2 hours to my house. I ordered 3 bunches of tulips. Bang bang, by 5:00 p.m. Eastern time, they were delivered to my house, and my wife's like, could not believe that she got tulips for Valentine's Day. And you know what? That's how easy it needs to be for the car business. And that's where we need to get to at the end of the day. Yeah.
So what about your thoughts on Carvana?
You know what? They are a great disruptor, Carvana. The thing about Carvana is I'm going to say I'm a little biased for Carvana. I have a very good friend of mine that's the CEO of Drive Time, which is the sister company to Carvana. Mm-hmm. I love what Carvana is doing. I think with used cars, I think the big thing that these local car dealers need to think about is that they not only sell used cars locally, but they need to think about a geo across the country, because that's where Carvana is making their money. I mean, they might only have 6 Honda Accords in stock, but across the nation, it looks like they have wherever you search, they have the same Honda Accords. And great thing about the internet that our greatest vice president invented, Al Gore, back in the day, is that we need to make sure that we have that the internet is open access and they can sell cars. But Carvana is good. The other thing that I love about Carvana, believe it or not, is their trades. I mean, they get a ton of people selling their cars to them. We buy at Carvana. And, I was, dealers got to start buying cars instead of just giving just straight up trade value. Say, hey, we will buy your car for X, Y, Z, and get kind of like Auto Trader did back in the day. But I think they pulled out of that market. I think they did. They pulled out of the trade marketplace. I think. Yeah. I'm not sure if they're still in that or not. But
I'm not sure either. But I think you're absolutely right. And I did a little bit of research on, what Carvana, I mean, dealers have been bitching about Carvana since almost they started their business. And I'm like, it just felt like, okay, well, now we're bitching about, the Amazons of the world way back when it was like, well, they're not going to be profitable, but they did turn the corner. Like, I just think it's a bad idea to say, well, yeah, they're not doing anything right. And, well, they're making customers happier. They're providing a consumer experience that's better. And as I did more research, because I did a short, like a 90-day project with somebody who was working with Vehicle Acquisition Network. And that company, in fact, one of my What's Going On with Shaun YouTube videos is basically telling the story of running into an old friend, Jonah Jones. I don't know if you know him. He's down here in Texas.
Oh, Jonah Jones. Yeah, Jonah Jones. Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah. So I was talking to Jonah, and he was telling me that he had been at Van for, a few years. Mm-hmm. And they literally have a tool that allows a dealer to, basically have the whole communication process baked in and make it really easy to acquire vehicles from private parties. Which I had thought, okay, well, that's obviously different from the trade-in business. Let me do a little research on this. And Carvana, one of the things that started to curb them back towards being more profitable was that they were typically buying a private seller vehicle for every one they're selling, or trying to get close to that ratio.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's super, super smart. So I thought that was a really interesting finding as it related to Carvana's business, but also a really good idea for dealers to get into that game more significantly. And I don't know of a lot of vendors I'm not working with Van anymore, but I don't know of a lot of other businesses that are making that easy for dealers. But it's a really important part if they want to compete with the Carvanas. But even if they have the technology, they do have to provide the experience, the customer experience that matches whatever it is. Because you even just a few minutes ago when you were kind of explaining Team Velocity and all the things that you guys have put together, that gives the marketing strategy focuses on consistency of message, so that you don't have multiple different advertising channels saying different things with different prices, different message, different graphics, all this kind of. It's a similar thing to where if you're going to go out and have a technology that helps you with the acquisition of private party seller vehicles, you better also have a process that makes the consumer feel good about it. Because I can imagine that those conversations start with, who are you? Like, if you're proactively reaching out and saying, we're the dealership, we want to buy your car. I think a lot of people at first, unless you have a good process for it, be like, no thanks.
Yeah, no thanks. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. And Carvana is definitely a disruptor, but we need to definitely embrace them. I mean, you think about now with CarMax, also with the minor stake in Edmunds, what they're going to be doing too as well. And I assume, and I don't know any of this, I just through my spidey sensors tell me that they're going down the same route and they're going to be using the Edmunds platform, a true market value platform, as well as their name in the marketplace for branding purposes. So CarMax and Edmunds will be coming together, and they'll be acquiring vehicles because the acquisition or the procurement of getting a used car today is so hard for these car dealers. And going to the auction today, my friend Brian Benstock always says, I mean, everybody at the auction today is like the Statue of Liberty. They just all have, the CarMax guys and the Carvana guys just have their arms held up high, just saying, we'll just take them all. You know what I mean? Because they can't, just the way it is. So dealers today, the used car market is definitely shaping up, as well as the new car market is definitely shaping up too as well.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great year. I mean, I know the SAR is predicted to be at 16.8 million this year, so it's a little bit down, but
a little down. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be a great year for the car business.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be surprisingly good too. I mean, there's obviously some things that are going on in the world, like coronavirus, and it's an election year, and you're always like, but I still think it's going to be a good year. I think dealers have to really think broad in their spectrum. It's like, it can't just be, let's live off of new cars, because you know what, manufacturer might not be giving you a whole bunch of exciting new product. So I think having a broad strategy across certified pre-owned as well as non-certified used cars, getting into that game, trying to develop what you could do with private vehicle acquisition. There's a lot of different components. And I think that the dealers that really see that holistic strategy, like we got to be good on all sides of the ball, as they say in sports, offense, defense, special teams, whatever. Those dealers, I think, are going to really be pleasantly surprised about the kind of year that they'll have. I want to ask you another thing that's a little bit relative to this. Do you think, and you don't have to, I know because you and I know each other and know so many vendors and we have friends in these places, so if I ask anything that you're like, I don't really want to chime in on, no problem. But Car Guru's has been taking some heat here lately on something that actually, it's not brand new, but I think people that maybe haven't been in the industry for a long time don't realize that almost everything that you allow to be added to your website through JavaScript or some sort of add-on, you better read the fine print in it, because all of them, most of them at least, have their T's and C's pretty buttoned up, which means that you're allowing them to cookie your site, that they're doing things that actually you should have thought about already. And it's not just Car Gurus that has done that. There's a long list of providers that will do that. There's a lot of trade tools that you can add to your site that do that very thing. Do you think that what we're seeing right now with the heat that they're putting on Car Gurus, that we're going to start to see more people get called out for, that's not a good thing? Not as if it's going to surprise people like you and I, but I was talking to our mutual friend Barry Brodsky about this this week. He said to tell you hi, by the way. But we were talking about that, and he's like, Shaun, I've been saying this for so many years, and it's like, either people don't pay attention to it or they think I'm crazy. But this kind of thing's been going on for a long time, and he and I were kind of trying to figure out, you think we're going to see more of it, and other people are going to be implicated for doing almost the exact same thing. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So absolutely. So the vendors that are doing that today, adding the JavaScripts or doing what they're telling the dealers to add to their website, are definitely going to be called out. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not correct, and should not be done. But reality is, you got to think about it this way, Shaun, is if I came to your house for dinner, right, and I left there and I put my placemat on your table, and I said, leave my placemat on your table for life, right, and I left, that means that you would be eating with me for the rest of your life. The reality is, you own your website. Dealers own their website. They should know what's on their website, just like what's in their DMS. They own that data. They know what's going on with that data, and they should do their own auditing every single month. And, in the big groups, like I'm sure Berkshire Hathaway, Sonic, Lithia, or whatever the groups are, I'm sure they know what JavaScripts are on their websites. And they need to make sure that there's no third-party companies out there besides maybe Google Analytics and whatever types of pixels they're trying to
Tag Manager, maybe.
Tag Manager, and so forth going forward.
Yeah.
I think this backlinking stuff, I know why Car Gurus wanted it on there for SEO relevance and stuff like that, and I'm sure there are some other companies out there that have done it too. I'm not going to name them, but you own your website, dealers. Make sure you know what's in your website. You own your dealership. You know who walks in your store. And kick them out. I would say it's not proper at the end of the day.
All right.
So
I got a couple of easy ones, and we'll wrap this thing up. Having more fun now, or having more fun in 2001?
That's a trick question. You know that, right? That is definitely a trick question. So that is definitely a trick question. So professionally,
you want to pass?
Huh?
You want to pass?
No. So that is definitely a trick question. So I would definitely say I'm definitely having more fun now. Not only with my family. My family is the most important thing to me. So I'm definitely having more fun now. Back then, if I had a family, I would not probably have fun. But today, I would definitely say my family drives me, and Team Velocity drives me too as well. But in our organization, our culture is family first. So I would definitely say today is, but it is a trick question. But it is definitely today. More fun now.
Okay, good. Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth?
Actually, I don't like either one. Let me tell you, no, I can't drive 55. Definitely is my guy, Sammy Hagar. But let me tell you why. Now, this is actually a very true story. David Lee Roth left Van Halen and went on his own.
Yeah.
And like I told everybody, I was divorced, and my ex-wife and I went to go see David Lee Roth in concert at the Camden Aqua. I don't forget the theater, Aqua Theater in Camden, New Jersey, and David Lee Roth, and you know how they always try to get women to come backstage and all these types of things.
Yeah.
So David Lee Roth had one of his henchmen, I guess, men or women, it was a guy though, try and come up to, and I guess my wife and I didn't look like we were together, and try to get my ex-wife to come backstage. So I am definitely not a David Lee Roth fan. So I am definitely Sammy Hagar. I can't drive 55. You're
a Sammy Hagar fan. Okay. That's great. Love it. MMA or boxing?
I like both MMA and boxing. I like both. But I'm going to have to say I'm an old soul. I'm a boxing, from the old days of Holyfield and Tyson and Foreman and all those guys. But I like Sugar Ray Leonard and Muhammad Ali. One of the greatest ever. Sting like Sting like a
fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. But without boxing, there will be no M&A. So boxing is definitely the foundation.
Okay, baseball or football?
You would have to ask me that question. I like baseball. But I'm definitely more of a football fan. Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm so proud that our ex-coach Andy Reid won his first Super Bowl this year with Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, that was good to see for sure.
That was a very good move, but definitely football.
Yeah. So that's good. So this should be easy, but you might have to think about it. So I'll give you a couple seconds to ponder it. But back in that old Automark era, there was so much excitement. It almost, I hate to draw this comparison because it really isn't quite that, but like the things that you would see in like a
Wolf of Wall Street movie. Maybe not quite that extreme, but the stuffing $100 bills and Nerf footballs and all that type of stuff. When you think back on that era and the excitement of the climb, do you have a favorite story that you love to tell it, you love for people, and the inspiration behind it? Do you have something like that from that old era? Because there's certainly a lot of memories I have that are just really, really awesome. But do you have any favorites from back in that era?
One of the big things that we try to drive today, even back then, is there's a couple things. So I have two good stories. So the first story is that we used to have these family trips. So where they took the whole company every year to a special place. We went to Hawaii one year. We went to the Gaylord. We used to sing and dance. We used to do all sorts of things. But I do remember one year we all went to Orlando, and we stayed at the Gaylord in Orlando. And one night they rented out not Disney World, but they rented out Adventures.
Universal, maybe?
Universal Studios. They rented out Universal Studios, and it was just for 300 of us. And we got to go on all the rides, go through all the different things. All the concession stands were wide open. And I just want to say that was a massive thank you to everybody back then. And it brought us all together as one organization, one culture, and one company. And it was very appreciative back then. But the other thing that they also taught me wasn't about giving out money or giving out awards or anything. If you were wrong and you hurt someone's feelings, it was an easy word for us we all forget about it. It's the word called sorry. And a lot of people don't say sorry anymore. And one of the things that we always do now is if I'm wrong or if I hurt your feelings, I always make sure I say I'm sorry to you. Mm. So it was very, very, very good for that.
I think that's a great place for us to, unfortunately, end our time. I would love to just make this a Joe Rogan thing and go like 3+ hours with you, but I did go grab this off my shelf. That's why I left my.
Oh yeah, carpoint.com. Yeah, nice. I remember that too.
I still have a couple trinkets and keychains from the old days. I think saying sorry when you should say sorry is a really important attribute. And kind of like the first time I met you and you said, Shaun, always leave them with a good idea, leave them with a golden nugget. Well, you're just leaving us with the golden nugget is when you need to say sorry, go and say it. Moments matter, including the ones where we need to apologize. So this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, you all know what's going on with Aaron Bickart. Thanks for being a guest, Aaron.
Thank you, Shaun. And if anyone needs anything, please feel reach out to me on LinkedIn. Talk to you all soon.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you know what? That's a great idea. How else? Is that the best place? Reach out on LinkedIn for you, Aaron Bickart? Yeah?
Yeah, just reach out to Aaron Bickart at LinkedIn and I'll be there. And you guys are going to see some exciting news coming out here in the next, probably today's February 26, 2020. There's going to be an announcement. Team Velocity acquired a company, and you're going to see myself probably taking over that organization. So you're going to see that here in the next hopefully in the next, let's say 10 to 15 days.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear more about it. In fact, maybe we have you back when there's more to talk about. I feel like you and I could get into a lot more conversation on a lot of different things. So when that happens, certainly let me know if you want to do this again. By that point, I'll know if people even are enjoying the podcast in general. So that's great, man. Congratulations on all your success. Your time is so valuable, and I appreciate you giving me this much of it, man. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you very much, Shaun, and have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.